Hi, it's Nicole. My first ever video was published on the 1st of November 2021. That means I've been a part of this reading community for a year now, and I'm currently filming my video number 50. Let's celebrate and look back at my journey as a reader as well as a YouTuber. I'm going to use the evolution as a reader tag created by Jack from Spread Book Joy as the oral framework of this video. I'll also answer a few questions from you guys as well as a couple of questions from the BookTube anniversary tag and the BookTube birthday tag. The first big question is what you read. For example, what kind of books do I read? How has my taste in books changed? How do I end up reading what I read now? A related question from Lisa in Bookland. I would like to know, have you always been a big classics reader, or how your reading changed over the years? Look back at my blog, which has a longer history than my BookTube channel. The first book review I wrote was from 2014, and it was a translated contemporary Japanese novel. And scrolling through my website, it looks like I read a lot of Japanese novels then, as well as a lot of Christian non-fiction books. This might sound unbelievable to you, but according to my own words in one of my year-end review blog posts, I only discovered BookTube in 2020. And because the first booktubers that were suggested by YouTube search recommended contemporary authors, I very quickly got into contemporary novels and literary prizes. I remember reading the short list of one prize one year, and I was very confused and very disappointed. I didn't like any of the books on the short list, and I thought there must have been something wrong with my taste or judgment in books, or I must have been missing something important, because otherwise, why were these books shortlisted? I couldn't see anything exciting or enjoyable in them. So just like I got into following literary prizes really quickly, I got out of it even faster. My first lesson and action point from this failed attempt of reading literary prizes was to, for the time being, stop endlessly reading shortlists and new releases that come out every month unless there's a good reason. I can't follow it, and I can't afford it even if I want to follow it. My second action point was to build my literary foundation from scratch, so one day I can appreciate the new releases and the prices. So I started my DIY education called the Reading Oxford Project. Again, according to my blog, at some point towards the end of August 2020, I was frustrated by the patchiness of my knowledge in English literature, fed up by my futile attempts at keeping up with all the new book releases, and so decided to correct the problem by finding myself a reading list from an English literature degree. I found a few and settled on the Oxford University one. My hope is at the end of my DIY education, 2022, I will have touched on Old English, Middle English, Renaissance, Restoration, Romanticism, Victorian, modern literature, and some theory, thus having a clearer big picture of the subject. In the first year, I aim to read roughly 36 books in total from Victorian era, modern era, Shakespeare, and on literary theory, and maybe one or two Old English, and depending on how it goes, plan the second year or give up. I'll write a review for each book. Obviously, I won't have any tutors to discuss things with or to mark my work, but I'll have to do without, and that's okay. So this was the beginning of me reading English classics. So to answer Lisa's question, I only started reading classics from September 2020. I made a curriculum and started with Victorian and modern authors. So I read Jane Eyre, Middlemarch, Great Expectations, To the Lighthouse, Ulysses, and many more well-known titles. We are at the end of 2022 now, so in theory I'm near the end of my DIY education. But I haven't stopped reading classics, and I don't think I ever will stop now. The most unexpected thing happened to my channel. In addition to English classics from the Victorian and modern era, videos on Shakespeare started to appear, to the extent that I made a playlist specifically for him. I guess you can't follow a Oxford English degree reading list without bumping into Shakespeare, but I read the plays only because I told myself, you've made the commitment, better follow it through. I never read Shakespeare before and randomly started with Henry VI Part 2 and Two Gentlemen of Verona. It was completely hopeless, so I enlisted the help of Charles and Mary Lamb, which didn't help at all. It was not until June this year, so June 2022, when I went and watched Much Ado About Nothing in theatre, that Shakespeare started to make sense and became exciting. Because of my struggle with Shakespeare, I'm most pleased with the two videos on Shakespeare's plays and character studies, Helen from All's Well That Ends Well and Coriolanus. I also like the London vlog and our little trip to the Globe Theatre, but Coriolanus especially, I could never have imagined that I'd be able to speak about a Shakespeare character for nearly 30 minutes. When I mentioned The Tempest in a wrap-up video last year, I just said apologies, I had nothing to say. So it seems, looking back, it seems I have been growing as a reader, and that's quite exciting. Because I'm less influenced by the trend and because of my goal to build a literary foundation with my DIY education, I keep my reading choices each month precise and focused. How do I do that? By heavy planning. In my Jane Austen July planning video, which is one of my most popular videos on the channel, I talked about why I plan. Basically, there are so many books out there, but I don't have unlimited time, so I need to choose the titles and spend my time carefully. But more importantly, I believe the better you plan, the better you read. If I have a potential list at the beginning of the month, as soon as I finish one book, I'll get on to the next one. But if I don't have a list, I will either grab something random quickly, or I will take a long time to decide and then waste a lot of time that way. So I plan and decide at the beginning of the month, and then I just work my way through them. As a result of this method, I definitely read more books than before. If you're interested, here are two graphs showing roughly how many books and how many pages I read since January 2021. Ticking off 12 Victorian classics and 9 modern classics did give me a sense of achievement, but more importantly, when an author like Thomas C. Foster talks about Thomas Hardy, D.H. Lawrence or Henry James, I can now follow. The curriculum and the planning sound quite rigid, but for my purpose, it makes such a big difference. I used to read brand new physical books most of the time, but now I use Kindle, I buy secondhand books, I make use of my local libraries, and I listen to audiobooks. I think I am moving slowly from owning physical books on my shelves to owning the ideas and contents of the books in my head. I read every day, most consistently before sleep. So if I definitely want to finish one book this month, I'll read it at 11 p.m. in bed for an hour. That's just generally speaking. I don't think I can read, for example, Henry James in bed. Nothing too challenging, otherwise I fall asleep too quickly, and nothing too addictive. I never read Harry Potter in bed, and nothing too horrific like 1984. I think it would give me nightmares. So that links nicely to a question from RCMD. Do you read one book at a time, not moving to another until you finish the one you started, or do you alternate 2 or more books in a reading day? I read a few books in one go, so one before bed, like I just said, one in the living room for the couple of hours after dinner. The living room book is often read with an audiobook, so listening and reading Ulysses was done in the living room after dinner, so most of the Shakespeare's plays. And I always have a audiobook as well for when I'm cooking, when I'm sitting on the metro. I am still experimenting whether fiction or non-fiction is better consumed in this form. Lastly, concerning BookTube. How has BookTube changed you as a reader? Marina asks, has producing these videos altered your approach to and experience of reading, and if so, in what way? Having a BookTube channel and posting a video every week means that I'm not only a reader anymore. I take from the books and I also give something back to the world. So there is an input and an output. And here's my process. I read a book, I think about it, I write my ideas down, and I talk about them. Before I started producing videos on this channel, I could just stop at stage 1. Now there are 4 stages. Because I want to talk about books in a way that worth your time, I try to be very intentional about the first 3 stages. Often I need to complete all 4 stages within 2 weeks and sometimes even just 1 week, and that can be quite intense. I am still very new in terms of making videos about books and reading classics, but I think having a BookTube channel and being committed to making decent content constantly have taught me, if not forced me, to read more intentionally and to look and think more carefully and to communicate more effectively. To be honest, it is hard work. A viewer called GL recently left a message and called it a labor of love. I was really touched reading it. I wish I could say I made the videos for the sake of the good works themselves, but that wouldn't be honest. It was especially difficult at the beginning when I was slow to read, think, write and film, and there were very few views on each video. It was quite discouraging. I remember thinking I will do this thing, I will commit to this thing for a year and then I will pack up if it's a total disaster. That sad situation only changed after many of you heard of me, probably from Kate Howe and Katie from Books and Things. So big thanks to Kate and Katie for introducing me to this community. At the end of the day, it has been your wonderful and thoughtful comments and messages that keep me motivated. I'm sure you are all busy with study, with work, family and life in general. Even when you are not busy, there are so many TV shows and entertainments out there. It's unbelievable that you not only watch my videos but leave me a message, and you write such kind and encouraging words. I'm extremely thankful. I love it when you recommend a book for me to try, and I love it when you decide to try a book because I mentioned it. I could never have imagined that so many of you showed interest in Skellig or the Napoleon of Notting Hill. Again, it's unbelievable that you listen to what I say. I will try my best not to take your time and trust for granted. So on to another year of reading adventure. Let's do this together. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next one.